Tonight's story isn't just scary. It's the kind of hotel nightmare that happens while you're asleep, and you never wake up in time to see who's standing over you. Michael had no idea that the most unsettling night of his life would begin in the quietest way possible, with nothing more than a tired exhale and a heavy suitcase dragging across the polished lobby floor of a downtown hotel that looked perfectly ordinary from the outside. He had just landed from a long cross-country flight, exhausted, foggy, and barely noticing the strange tension in the hotel clerk's forced smile as she handed him the keycard for room 209, a room she seemed oddly hesitant to speak about. But Michael was far too tired to care. He took the elevator up, listening to the soft mechanical hum and the occasional flicker of the overhead light, as if the building itself was trying to warn him. The hallway on the second floor was unusually cold. Not the typical hotel AC kind of cold, but a deeper, bone-level chill that felt as if it seeped out of the walls. Still, he brushed it off, thinking only of sleep. Room 209 looked perfectly normal, clean, quiet, untouched. He stepped inside, locked the door, tossed his bag aside, and flopped onto the bed without even checking the room twice. Within minutes, his breathing fell into a slow, steady rhythm as he drifted into a heavy, dream-thick sleep, completely unaware that the room around him had begun to shift in ways no waking person would ever dismiss. It started with a soft metallic tremble at the door handle, the kind of tiny rattle that could easily be mistaken for air pressure changes. Except this one came in slow, deliberate pulses, like someone outside was gently testing it, twisting it just enough to make it quiver, but not enough to open it. Michael didn't hear a thing. His exhaustion locked him deep under, his mind floating through half-formed dreams, while the faint glow from the streetlight outside slid across the floor in an odd, slow-moving arc, as though something large kept passing in front of the window. In the far corner, the chair that had been neatly placed against the wall began to move, not dragged abruptly, but eased forward inch by inch with a soft scrape that grew louder against the silence. If Michael had been awake, he would have jumped at the sound, but sleeping Michael only turned onto his side and tightened the blanket beneath his chin. The temperature dropped sharply. The room thermostat remained set at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, yet the air thickened with an icy stillness that turned his breath into faint, foggy puffs. At the foot of the bed, a blurry shape slowly formed, like mist, swirling into a humanoid outline, tall, motionless, watching. Whispers began to fill the room in overlapping layers, not loud but persistent, like dozens of faint voices trying to speak through a thin wall. Sometimes, the whispers stretched into long hisses, sometimes into unintelligible murmurs that felt directed at Michael's sleeping body. Instead of waking, he simply furrowed his brow in his sleep, sinking deeper into a dream where he felt someone calling his name from far away. All while, in the physical world, the bathroom light flicked on with a harsh snap, casting a stark white glow over the mirror. Slowly, as though pressed by an invisible fingertip, words began to appear in the condensation, spreading across the glass. "Wake up." The message hovered there for a long moment, the letters wet and trembling slightly, before the light blinked violently and shut off. The whispering intensified, circling the bed, growing colder, sharper. Yet Michael slept through it all, even as the mattress dipped beside him under the weight of something that wasn't there, or wasn't supposed to be. His dreams grew more vivid, shifting from random fragments to a strange, out-of-body perspective. In the dream, he saw himself lying on the hotel bed, saw the dim room from the perspective of the open doorway, and saw a tall, pitch-black figure standing beside his sleeping form. He tried to shout in the dream, but no sound came from his mouth. He tried to move, but his limbs refused to respond. The only thing he could do was watch the shadow lean closer to his sleeping body, its movements eerily syncing with the rise and fall of his real chest, as though it were studying the rhythm of his breathing, mimicking it, matching it, learning it. Outside of the dream, Michael's breathing patterns stuttered, briefly falling out of sync before returning to normal, completely unaware of the presence hovering inches from his face. The room lights flickered once, then fell into total darkness, except for the pale line of moonlight slipping under the curtains. Around 3:12 a.m., everything abruptly stilled. The whispers cut off mid-echo. The cold air stopped biting at the walls. The temperature slowly rose back to normal. The misty figure at the foot of the bed dissolved into nothing. The chair halted its slow crawl across the floor, and the bathroom light shut off permanently, as if whatever force had been animating the room had suddenly withdrawn. Michael remained deeply asleep, breathing softly, peacefully, the horrors around him fading like smoke dispersing after a storm. When morning sunlight finally seeped into the room, warming the carpet and brushing over his face, he woke up feeling oddly refreshed, stretching lazily as though he'd slept without a single disturbance. The faint fog still clinging to the bathroom mirror didn't concern him, nor did the chair sitting inches away from the bed at a strange angle he didn't remember leaving it in. He assumed he had simply been moving in his sleep. At checkout, the front desk clerk looked at him with a tight, anxious stare and quietly asked if he had heard anything during the night. Michael shook his head and laughed, saying he had slept like a rock. The clerk's eyes dimmed with something between relief and dread. Room 209 usually doesn't let people sleep, she muttered under her breath, almost too low for him to hear. But Michael had already turned away, completely unaware that hotel security footage had captured the tall shadow figure standing outside his door at intervals throughout the night, motionless, watching, and occasionally twisting the handle before glitching the camera into static. Michael didn't remember any of it. He slept through the entire haunting, and perhaps that was the most disturbing part. Not that something visited him, but that whatever it was didn't want him awake for it. If that gave you chills, smash the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe, because the next story hits way darker than this. Thanks for watching.